All right, this is the Wrestling Doctor here from Pro Wrestling Extra. I'm sitting here beside Jonathan Wells. Jonathan is the CCW Heavyweight Champion.
Yes, sir.
You're defending that belt tonight, right?
That's right.
And you're going against Rock and Roll Chris Turner.
That's right.
It's going to be a tough match. You know, he's a veteran.
I've been in there several times with him. I think I can handle it.
Okay, that's good. Let's get started from the beginning, okay?
Okay.
When did you first, or can you remember the first time you got interested in wrestling?
Well, I've loved it since I was a kid. I mean, as long as I can remember, I've been a fan. About 2008, late 2007, early 2008, I started training.
At the CCW training facilities?
No, actually, I started training in Georgia,
Okay.
and then that's how I made my way down here. Chris contacted me, wanted me to come down. I came down, and I've been working for him since late 2008. Trained up there, referee to begin with, which is what a lot of people do. You know,
A lot of people start that way.
Started out refereeing, probably trained for about 4 or 5 months, then got into the ring for the first time.
All right. So, can you remember your first match?
I sure can.
Who was that against?
Logan Stevens.
And how did it turn out?
I went over.
But how did it turn out? Did it go like you planned?
Well, I sort of didn't do everything I could because, I mean, like I said, I transformed from referee to wrestler, so I didn't want to go in there and show all my tricks. You know, I mean, I had to go in and do as little as possible, you know, just enough to stick in there.
Well, where were you on the card? Opening match, mid?
I was about mid-card.
All right, so they weren't really expecting you to go out there and shine in there. You're a mid-card guy. They hired you as a mid-card guy because of your abilities. As you get better, you move up the card, so you were learning.
As a matter of fact, at the time, Logan Stevens was you know, the Southern States champion at the time, which is, you know, sort of like the Intercontinental champion. And I came right in out of an angle with him while he was champion. I refereed one of his matches, tried to screw him out of it. He called on, we got into it, and the next show we worked.
All right, that sounds good. Starting off with the angle. You know, I'm an old school guy. I believe in storylines. They're important. You want to give the fans something to follow. Storylines are important. If you hotshot angles, the people just lose interest. But if they've got something that they want to see, if they want to see somebody chase that belt, that's important to them.
That's right.
And that's important to sell tickets. So you've been in the business for
about 5 years.
5 years. Well, you know, heavyweight champion in 5 years. That's great.
That's right. I mean, I had to pay my dues, you know, like anybody else. When I first came to CCW in 2008. It was late 2008, and I pretty much jobbed out for 2.5 years. I mean, every show I came down here. I remember my first match down here, Blaine Rage, which at the time I thought was a great match, but looking back on it now, you know, I was green, and I had a good time with Blaine. We had a pretty good match, opening match. But I mean, other than that, I mean, the next duration for the next 2.5 years, I went out there and then I put people over. And
well, I mean, that's what you got to do. You have no choice. You know, they have a lot more experience. They're going to come out there.
Right.
They outsmart you. They can work. You know, so many of the young guys have to learn the pacing, the breathing in the ring. The people at home sit at home and they watch and they don't realize that when you're out there working in there, it's extremely hard. You get excited and you start breathing fast, your heart rate goes up, you lose your breath. There's not much you can do. When you're a young guy, a veteran will push you into that situation so he can take over. So, you know, that's important to learn, and you've picked up on that now, so you know it. So, what do you got planned for the future? Where do you see yourself in about 5 more years?
I mean, I'm liking it here in CCW. I mean, I am. I've been here for 5 years now, and I mean, of course, you know, in that first 2.5 years, you get frustrated, you know, going out putting people over every single show. And, I mean, I got frustrated, you know, but I fought through it. Matter of fact, Jamie McKinnon, he's been in the business for a long time.
Right.
And when I first started working down here, you know, with him being a veteran, you know, the respect thing that there was to it and everything else, you know. And I heard some stories, you know, about Jamie and Johnny, the Wranglers is what they were called at that time.
Yep.
I heard some stories, you know, about them, you know, showing respect. And that's what I did. And that first night I went out and I worked Blaine Rage. And when I came to the back, I was getting dressed, and Jamie came up to me and told me it was a good match. So for the next 2.5 years, you know, every time I got frustrated and every time, you know, that I wanted to just be done with it, you know, I thought back to that night. And Jamie don't know that. I had never told him that. But that little bit he told me that night, I mean, it kept me in it for the long haul. And, I mean, probably about 2010s when I changed gimmicks, because I came in doing an Irish gimmick.
Okay.
And I got the red hair and everything, so we did the Irish gimmick, and I didn't talk at all. because I didn't have the accent. But we pushed the gimmick, and
well, nobody starts with the same thing they finish with. Everybody tries their little niche and where they're going to fit in. And, you know, for God's sakes, I've had probably 8 to 10 different characters I have played,
That's right.
and whatever was needed at the time. In the old days, you did whatever it took to get a paycheck.
That's right.
You know, so everybody should understand that. You have to do things. You know, everybody looks and sees characters in the WWE. Everybody knows Zeb Coulter, who he really is, the Dirty Dutch Mantel. Everybody
That's right.
knows that. The fact is, he is so experienced in doing that. He is that guy. He is that guy.
That's right.
You know, so look, let me ask you one final question. You're in the business 5 years. Can you give some advice to young guys starting the business? What you would recommend they do?
I mean, the main thing is to stick it out. I mean, it's going to be rough when you first start. You got to train. You know, you got to get into shape. And I mean, and as far as my training goes and stuff like that, when I first started training, I mean, I got to give a lot of that to Logan Stevens, because I mean, the majority of my training was me and Logan in a ring working matches. And so my hat's off to Logan Stevens for that. But I mean, as far as the young guys trying to break into the business now, I mean, just stick it out. I mean, you got to pay your dues. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get there. And I mean, I know one of the hardest things to do in the wrestling business is stick it out.
Right.
Because you start off, you know, you're not very good. You got to put people over, and this, that, and the other. I mean, and that's the main thing I can tell young people when they get in the business. Just stick it out and try to hang in there.
It's just like any other profession. You don't start at the top. You start at the bottom. You work your way to the top.
That's right.
And if you stay in long enough and you work hard enough, you'll make it. And that's what you got to do. And you're on the way, man. You're almost there.
I appreciate it, Hal.
No, I appreciate you sitting with me. This is the Wrestling Doctor from Pro Wrestling Extra saying thanks.